Level 1. The honest employee. Your job is checking whether other people's money is fake, and in 27 years you'll be the fake. $3 billion under a name nobody can connect to you. You're 24. $38,000 a year at Third Coast Savings in Hialeah, Florida, and you believe rules are load-bearing. A used car lot deposits $9,400 in cash on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Never 10. The lot belongs to a man named Marcus. You write it up on your lunch break. 9 days later, he's at your window with the same $9,400, loose in a grocery bag. Somebody told him? Count it, he says. By hand. 411 bills. 7 people in line. Then he slides the counterfeit pen across. Swipe, everyone, take your time. It's the only part of this you're qualified for. Then he turns to the line and says, he's very thorough. They laugh. Not meanly the way people do when a stranger gives permission. Your manager finds something urgent on his monitor and stays urgent 6 minutes. You swipe all 411. Not one of them is fake. One day he will sign 11 companies he never reads, then call you from a federal facility asking politely for a lawyer. But you have to lose this job first. Level 2. The cash collector. You are not laid off. You are selected. Third Coast consolidates 2 branches in April. The list is written by Ray Sandoval, the manager, who found something urgent on his monitor, and your name is on it because of a note about client-facing tone. The note exists because you were right. Nobody says it out loud. Everybody knows it. You get a folder, a handshake, and 11 weeks of severance, which sounds like a lot until you divide it by rent. You clear your desk into a copier paper box while somebody from operations makes sure you don't steal a stapler. The counterfeit pen goes in with everything else. Nobody stops you. It's a $2 pen. You'd have done better with a stapler. Ray keeps his job. You apply to 6 other banks. 2 of them call your old branch. Neither calls you back. An industry that trains you to notice patterns is very good at noticing them in you. Week 3, you call the number on the card he left under the pen. He'd said he needed somebody who could count. The lot is called Big Marcus Auto Sales. Marcus is 5'6". The job is a route. A car wash in Opelika. 2 laundromats off Palm Avenue. A bakery that has never sold that many cakes. And a potty supply place doing $7,000 a week in helium. You drive a 9-year-old Camry that belongs to nobody. Cash has a smell and it tells you where it's been. Detergent, fryer grease, chlorine. Marcus gives you the rules in a parking lot, eating a Cuban off the hood, like a man explaining a lawnmower. Never a rentals have paper, and everything you love has paper. And never put your phone in the money bag. You ask why. He thinks about it. Because if somebody takes the bag, I'd like you to still have a phone. That is the closest thing to affection he will ever give you. Your sister Denise calls on a Sunday and asks what you're doing now that the bank thing ended. Logistics, you say. Logistics, she says. By Thanksgiving, she has told the whole family you're in logistics, and your uncle corners you by the cooler to ask what you think about the port situation. And you say it's complicated. And he says that's what he keeps telling people. In August, the Opelika wash comes up $2,300 short. Marcus doesn't yell. He tells you to think about it overnight. He never says what happens to people who come up short. And the not saying is the point. You don't sleep. You lie there doing the only thing you've ever been good at. Arithmetic about other people's money. At 6 in the morning, you pull 4 weeks of till tapes. The manager's nephew has been skimming $180 twice a shift, Tuesdays and Fridays. You bring Marcus the nephew and the math in that order. He looks at the tapes. Huh, he says. You're not just a counter. It is the most he has ever given anyone. 9 days later, a Broward deputy pulls you over on I-95 for a plate light, with $80,400 in the spare tire. He asks where you're headed. You say a wedding in Naples. He asks whose. And this is the part nobody warned you about. You cannot stop. You give him a name. You give him the venue. You are explaining the thing about the fish option when he puts a hand up. He tells you to get the light fixed. You make it to the breakdown lane and sit shaking so hard you can't get the key in the ignition. And while you wait for your hands to work, you do the arithmetic on what a man would have to own for $80,000 to be boring. And the number is so large you laugh out loud on a highway shoulder. Then it stops being funny, because the number isn't impossible. It's a different job, and somebody has it. Moving money is easy. Any idiot with a spare tire can do it. Explaining money is the job. You call Marcus that night and tell him you want something. Level 3. The fake business owner. Marcus hands you $31,000 in 2 words. Make it boring. You buy a coin laundry on Palm Avenue, 14 working machines, 6 dead ones, and a soda cooler that hasn't cooled since the Bush administration. The sign says Suds. Then you find the absurd center of the profession. To be a criminal, you have to be an excellent small business owner. You file quarterly. You run payroll for 2 employees who actually exist, Araceli's, who opens, and Junior, who closes, and they get real W-2 forms and a Christmas bonus. Because Araceli's would notice. And every April you pay federal income tax on $412,000 of revenue, about $290,000 of which was never earned by anybody, anywhere. You pay the government to lie to it. That's the trick. 30 cents on the dollar, and worth every one. In year 2, the IRS sends a letter thanking you for your timely filings. You read it 3 times. You put it in a drawer. Some nights you think about it. The water bill is what gets people. A laundry claiming $412,000 in quarters should be drowning the county, and the county reads meters. So you run the machines at night, empty, on a written schedule with the doors locked and the lights off. You are a man paying to wash nothing. In the daytime, it's a real laundry. You start recognizing regulars. You learn that nobody uses number 6, and nobody will tell you why. And somewhere in month 7, you notice you've gotten good at this. Not at the crime. At the laundry. You fix a dryer belt yourself on a Sunday with a video propped against a jug of Gain, and when it spins, you feel something you haven't felt since the bank. You catch yourself at a barbecue explaining margin on soap to a man who didn't ask. In November, a county inspector walks in unannounced about a grease trap that isn't yours. You go to the back office and nearly throw up in a mop sink. He spends 40 minutes going through your books. Who does these? I do. You do. I do. He looks at you the way you'd look at a man who told you he built the building. 19 years in Dade County and never once a general ledger. He leaves. He does not come back. You are not caught because you are too clean. You sit there with your hands flat on the desk and understand something that will run the rest of your life. The cleanest man in the room is the one to worry about. Marcus takes 40% and calls the laundry the toy. He says it the way you'd say it about a kid's bike. See, he says, you can count. He means it as a compliment. It lands like a brand, and he has no idea, and that is somehow worse. One night bored, you pull the property records on your own strip mall. A Florida LLC, owned by a Delaware LLC, owned by a trust in Curacao. At the 4th layer, the names stop being names. Somebody owns the building you launder money inside, and it cost 4 documents and $900 to make that unknowable. By the 2nd year, you've hit the ceiling, and the ceiling is physics. 14 machines earn what 14 machines earn. Plumbing doesn't lie. You need a business where nobody can count the customers. Level 4, the strip club manager. You put in $140,000 for 40% of the Wilshire room, and on the first Friday you stand in the doorway and understand what you've bought. You have bought a business with no receipts. Nobody here wants to be identified. That's the product. There's the door take, which is whatever the door says it is. There's the ATM charging $7.50, which the club owns, so you collect a fee on the money before you collect the money. 31 dancers, all on paper independent contractors, paying you a house fee to work a shift. Nobody audits a lap dance. You can add $9,000 to a Friday, and the only man who could contradict you drove 40 minutes to 79th Street specifically, so nobody would know where he was. And then the problem shows up, and the problem is people. A coin laundry has no witnesses. The Wilshire room has 41, and everyone has a boyfriend, a landlord, and a Tuesday where they say too much. You know everybody's coffee order and nobody's real name. You had assumed this level would feel dangerous. Mostly it feels like middle management. You spend a Tuesday afternoon mediating a dispute about the Saturday rotation. You are running a criminal enterprise and being shouted at about a schedule. Somebody makes a chart. You approve the chart. You are quietly proud of the chart. You buy a second microwave for the dressing room because the first one is a war crime, and for 2 weeks it is the most popular thing you have ever done. At 3 in the morning on a Tuesday in February, a dancer's boyfriend comes through the office door. He's 22, with a box cutter and no plan past the next 90 seconds. He takes $18,000 out of the drop safe and your phone and sweeps the desktop into his bag on the way out, which is how he ends up with a $2 counterfeit pen he will never think about. You sit on the floor for a while after he leaves. Then you understand the second thing about this level, and it's permanent. You cannot call the police. Not tonight. Not ever again. Not about anything. So you make 4 phone calls to people you didn't know you had. By 2 the next afternoon, the 18,000 comes back in a Publix bag. The pen is in it too. You never find out what happened to the kid. And the part that stays with you years later isn't the box cutter or the safe. It's that you didn't ask. Marcus starts sending his cousin around that spring. $1,200 a week, doing nothing anybody can name. Nobody knows his title, including him. You don't object, because objecting costs more than $1,200 a week. By year 3, you're washing $4 million a year through a room with a fog machine. Then, in October, a Metro-Dade detective starts coming in on Thursdays. He orders a Diet Coke with no ice. Every week, no ice. He tips $1, which is the tell, because everybody in that building tips well. He never watches the stage. He watches the cage and who carries the bag to the office at close. He isn't investigating you. He's waiting for you. You go home and do the arithmetic and get something that sounds insane out loud. You don't need a better place to hide. You need a business where the government investigates you on purpose and then licenses you. Marcus laughs at you for about 9 seconds. Then he stops. Let me say one thing and then I will not bring it up again. A lot of you asked how I make this style of YouTube videos, so I gathered all my tactics for starting a channel like mine in this guide. If you want it, the link's below. Now let's get back to the video. Level 5. The Casino Boss. You sell the Wilshire room at a loss on purpose. It is the smartest money you ever lose. Then you spend 14 months volunteering for the process you've spent 9 years avoiding. Gaming licensure means fingerprints, financial disclosure, 5 years of returns, and investigators who call everyone you've ever given a phone number. They call your ex-landlord. They call Arisles. They call the county inspector, who tells them you're the most organized man in Dade County. You are approved for a gaming license substantially on the strength of a grease trap. You pass because everything you own is real. You spent 9 years building a man who survives a background check by accident, thinking you were being careful. At 34, you're vice president of operations at a riverboat property called Vermilion Bluff in Bettendorf, Iowa, 1,800 miles from Palm Avenue. The cousin goes with the club. Marcus never asks about him again, and the detective is 1,800 miles behind you. 2 years later, you own most of it through people who are not you. You have a compliance department now. 9 people on the 3rd floor. You sign Title 31 filings. You approve the reports that go to Treasury, which means you approve the ones that don't. In your 4th month, a 26-year-old analyst named Devlin walks a file into your office. It's a pattern, he says. Just under 10,000, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Never 10, you say. Never 10. He is so happy. You read it twice. Then you sign the thing that makes it go away. You write 2 sentences about insufficient indicia. You tell him it's good work, and you mean it. He thanks you. The methods here are almost beautiful. Chip walking by in, play 4 hands, cash the chips somewhere else next week as a stranger. Minimal play 50,000 in, 20 minutes at a table, a casino check on the way out with 2 words on it. Gaming winnings, it says. Junkets that fly in players who never sit down and are furious about the buffet. Everyone thinks the casino is the floor. The floor is theater, the carpet is patterned to be just ugly enough that you look up. The casino is the cage. A bank that closes at 4. In March, a whale starts losing in a shape that isn't shaped like losing. You make him in 6 days because you used to be him. You have him comped 4 states away. He never knows. He fills out the guest survey and gives you 5 stars. 2 weeks later, a resume comes up from HR for Director of Compliance. Ray Sandoval, 58. 22 years in community banking, downsized twice. He has printed it on the thick paper. He doesn't recognize your name on the invite. He doesn't recognize you across the desk. 9 minutes in, he says the branch name. Something moves in his face, and he stops, then keeps going. You give him the job. $94,000 a year, dental, 4 weeks. He shakes your hand with both of his. It's much worse for him than saying no, and you both know it. Marcus comes to the property that summer and asks you, in a booth, quietly, to run some volume for him. He asks. He doesn't mention the pen. His not mentioning it is louder than mentioning it. Mila is born the following March, 6 pounds 11 ounces, at 4 in the morning. You open a college fund, $40 million a year moving under your signature, and no legal way to put $1 of it in an account with her name on it. You put in $500. It is the cleanest money you own, and it is humiliating. And every dollar you have sits inside a country that can freeze it on one afternoon with only a signature. Level 6? The offshore financier. 34th floor, Panama City. Through the glass, 40 ships wait their turn at the canal. The property's outside counsel gives you a name the way a doctor does, without writing it down. Renata Solis sets up 4 companies in 90 minutes. Panama Holding, Nevis Foundation, Cayman Trust. A Dubai entity that invoices the other 3. You start to explain the business. She puts up a hand, not unkindly, the way you'd stop a child reaching for a stove. Don't! Not what the money is. Not where it comes from. She asks whether you want the documents couriered or collected, and whether you'd like coffee. It takes a week to understand the not tasking isn't manners. It's the product she cannot be compelled to disclose what she never learned. The director of record on your Nevis Foundation is a retired schoolteacher listed on 41 companies who has never seen a balance sheet. She gets $1,100 a year and a party invitation. Renata throws a Christmas party. 41 companies is a lot of shrimp. The mechanism here isn't cash is what you did at 25 with a spare tire. It's invoices. You export water filtration units to a company in Dubai that you also own. Invoice them at 3 times cost. And the difference lands in a country whose flag you couldn't draw. No crime is visible in it. A price is an opinion. An invoice is the only lie a bank is legally required to believe. Nobody at this level is a criminal. Your private banker in Geneva wears a cardigan, asks about Mila by name, and 1 year sends her a book about horses. Your audit partner has a golden retriever named Bishop. You spent 16 years thinking you had found a hole in the system. It isn't a hole. It's a door. It was cut to your dimensions before you were born, and there is a receptionist beside it, and she will validate your parking. In February, a wire freezes. 6.2 million stuck between Nicosia and Dubai, and you spend 2 days doing arithmetic about who to pay. Then Renata explains, in the tone of a woman describing a parking ticket, that every dollar on earth passes through New York. A compliance officer in Manhattan you'll never meet can stop it by not clicking. She makes 1 call and sends a 2-page letter titled Commercial Rationale. 9 days later, the money moves. The lever was a document. There was never a man to pay. Something in you goes quiet, and it does not come back on. Marcus shows up in April in a restaurant broke. The state took the dealership over sales tax of all things. He asks badly a story about a partner you both know isn't true. Then he runs out of story and looks at the breadbasket for a while. You put him on 11 of your entities as nominee director. $4,000 a month. He signs at the table with the check still sitting there. What's this one? Services agreement. Right, he says, and signs it. 9 documents. He reads none. The man who once made you count 411 bills in public does not count a page. You stand at the bathroom sink afterward for a while. That autumn Renata mentions her largest client, the way you'd mention weather. Never set foot in Panama. No passport in his birth name. Owns 1/5 of a port. You'd like him, she says. Nobody knows him. You write nothing down. You never forget it. In November, she brings a client who moves $40 million a month and doesn't pretend he's a businessman. The fee is 4%. You should say no. You don't, and the reason isn't the money. It's that you can no longer picture the version of yourself who goes backward. Level 7. The cartel financier. Here is the part that takes a year to accept. The money never crosses the border. Not once. A man hands your people cash in a parking lot in Cicero. 6 hours later, pesos come out of a currency house in Culiacan. No wire, no plane, no tunnel. The dollars stayed in Illinois, the obligation went south. The dollars stay here and buy American things. Caterpillar parts out of Peoria. Peruvian gold that arrives as jewelry and leaves as bullion. And avocados. Genuinely avocados. There is a man here whose whole job is avocados. He has an Excel file with tabs and strong feelings about Super Bowl weekend. He once explained guacamole demand to you for 11 straight minutes, and you listened. $900 million a year. Your fee is 4%. Before this, a loss was just a loss. Here you are not a vendor. You are a guarantee. And the thing guaranteeing the guarantee is you. You never meet anybody frightening. Nobody believes that. The worst room you are ever in is a converted office above a produce distributor. A whiteboard. A Yeti thermos. 3 men doing arithmetic out loud, 1 in reading glasses on a chain. Somebody offers you coffee. You say no thank you. He asks if you're sure. You say you're sure. He looks a little hurt, and you spend the rest of the meeting thinking about that instead of the math. The violence is theoretical right up until it's a scheduling question. You ask them once, carefully, as a joke who they answer to when a number comes out wrong. They don't give you a name. They give you a jurisdiction. You lie on the hotel covers with your shoes on, and it isn't fear. The men you are afraid of a structure with no human being at the bottom of it. The man nobody knows. You have just seen the top of the ladder. It isn't a person. It's a vacancy. You fly home and take Mila to a birthday party at a trampoline place, where you hold 9 pairs of light-up Nikes while a woman named Karen asks if you join the auction committee. You tell her you travel a lot. In August, a container comes apart at Long Beach. 2.4 million seized, and none of it your fault. Nobody threatens you. Renata calls at 9 in the morning, in the voice she uses to move lunch. They'd like to know your plan. You have 40 hours. You know because you count them. You cover it. Which means unwinding the vehicle that holds Mila's education trust and taking questions from a banker who does not ask questions. The money lands. The matter closes. Because a man who can produce $2.4 million in 40 hours has just told a room of accountants what he's worth. You didn't buy your way out. You became collateral. Marcus is arrested in October. The sales tax case grew teeth, went federal, and became 11 companies that moved $300 million, all with his name on them because you put it there. He is 57, and they offer him a deal. He takes it. He gives them you, and the only reason he can is that somebody handed him a pen and showed him where to sign. The call comes on a Thursday in April while you are standing in a school multi-purpose room holding a paper cup of lemonade. A lawyer you have never spoken to. Sealed indictment, Southern District of New York, 4 counts, and if you're moving you should move inside 30 hours. Mila is 8. She is a B. She has 4 lines. She delivers all 4. You watch the whole thing. You clap in the right places. You do not sit down. Level 8. The international fugitive. You don't go home. That's the whole decision. And you make it in a school parking lot with the paper cup still in your hand. Not a plan. Just not home. You drive to a storage unit in Doral that has cost $81 a month for 6 years for no reason you ever said out loud. The unit next to yours holds a jet ski a man has never used. You have judged him silently for 6 years. Inside yours, a duffel, a second passport, 61,000 in used hundreds, a phone still in its plastic, and a counterfeit pen you put in there 6 years ago and have never been able to explain to yourself. You feel stupid for exactly as long as it takes to unzip it. You control $1.4 billion and you cannot rent a car. You cannot check into a hotel that scans identification. You cannot open a bank account. You cannot get a library card. You cannot join a Planet Fitness, not a problem you expected on the worst day of your life. And yet, money you cannot touch is not money. So you learn a new subject in 12 days, the way you learn deposit thresholds badly, urgently, too late. In June, you call Denise from a hotel in Dubai. On a phone you will break apart over a sink an hour later. You don't say anything. She says, "I know it's you." Then she waits. 11 seconds. You count them, because counting is what you do. She hangs up. That is the last conversation you ever have with your sister, and neither of you says a word in it. In September, the case starts coming apart predictably. Marcus cannot explain a single document he signed. They put him in a proffer session and ask him what an intercompany services agreement is. He says he believes it's a type of insurance. They ask what the company does. He says he thinks it does imports. You built him not to know. The Southern District of New York has a witness who does not know what he witnessed. His lawyer wants $300,000 to keep going. Marcus doesn't have $300. The request reaches you through Renata, in a message with no names in it. The intermediary asks him to prove it's genuine by describing the last time you were in a room together. He describes a Saturday, a line of customers, a grocery bag of loose bills, a man behind a counter in a lanyard counting 411 of them by hand, and a $2 counterfeit pen. He remembers the number. 22 years, and he remembers the number. You fund the defense inside a day. Not out of mercy. You're honest with yourself on the flight, cabin dark. A funded Marcus is a quiet Marcus, and quiet is worth $300,000. The red notice issues in November. Your legal name appears in an international database the first time in 6 years it's been written down anywhere. You read it off a screen in a rented apartment. They have spelled it wrong. You correct it in your head anyway. Hiding doesn't work. Hiding has an expiration date, and yours is 3 to 9 years out. Fugitives get caught. Institutions don't. You don't need to hide from a country. You need a country to need you. Level 9. The shadow billionaire. There is a country you'd never thought about 8 days from missing a bond payment. You solve it in a week not with a bribe, but with a bridge facility at a rate their ministry calls generous and you call cheap. 4 months later you are a citizen. The passport is real, in a name that is legally yours and has never been yours. At 51 you are a brand new person with excellent credit. A card arrives with a sticker that says "Activate me," and you sit at a kitchen table on the other side of the world and laugh until you put it down. Here is what you own. 19% of a bank, a container terminal, a football club whose supporters sing about an owner they've never seen, a hospital wing with a plaque bearing a name that is legally yours. You have watched the song on the internet. You don't know the words. As far as you can tell, it's about ambition. You have never seen the plaque. You've seen a photograph of it. You have never been convicted of anything. You have never been arrested. There is a red notice out for a man who no longer exists. At level 9, nobody hides money. Hiding is for people who still think somebody is coming. You make the money too expensive to seize. You lend to ministries. A country that owes you does not extradite you, not out of loyalty, out of accounting. You are, it turns out, the client Renata described that autumn. Never sets foot in the jurisdiction. No passport in his birth name. Nobody knows him. 5 years go by the way they do when nothing's at stake. Mila is 19. She thinks you work in commodities logistics, which isn't a lie, and she is studying environmental law. Last spring she sent you an article about offshore shell structures. She was furious. There were 3 exclamation points. You read it twice. It was well researched. You wrote back that it sounded complicated. It is the funniest and worst thing that has ever happened to you. Marcus took 9 years. You know it the way you know the weather in a city you'll never visit. You paid for his lawyer. He paid with your name. Neither would call it even. Denise died 2 years ago. You found out from a photograph on a page you weren't logged into because nobody was left with a number for you. Third Coast Savings was bought in the crash and bought again, and its charter sits 4 layers below a fund you hold a piece of. You own a piece of the bank that wrote you up for tone. You cannot go inside. You tried once. You flew 14 hours and drove to a strip mall on a Tuesday. It's a nail salon now. You sat in the lot 40 minutes anyway, looking at a window you used to stand behind. Then you drove to the airport. The diligence file on the charter comes in 6 boxes. Nobody reads those. You read it because you have never been able to leave a document alone. In box 4 there is a suspicious activity report. Hialeah, Florida, 27 years ago. Filed by a 24-year-old on his lunch break. It was never buried. Ray filed it correctly. It went exactly where those go. Stapled behind it is a second page you've never seen. 1 paragraph. No letterhead. Not a recommendation to open a case on a used car lot. A recommendation to separate the analyst from the branch and see what he does. It isn't signed. Where a name would go, there's a jurisdiction. You sit on the floor of a house you can't admit you own and read it 4 times. You didn't fall into this. You were hired. The one honest thing you ever did was the application. And Marcus never picked you either. Somebody handed Marcus a card too. You still own the laundromats in Hialeah. Somebody else keeps the schedule. The machines still run at night, empty, lights off, washing nothing in a building whose owner cannot be found by anybody, including you. The counterfeit pen is in a desk drawer in that same house, in that same country. None of it is legally yours. And tonight, in a 4-branch bank in a strip mall, a 24-year-old is finishing a report about a customer who deposits $9,400 in cash on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Never 10. He is doing it on his lunch break over a Chipotle bowl and not paid for the hour. He thinks he is saving the country. It will be read, carefully, by people looking for exactly him. By Tuesday morning, somebody will have handled it. The desk is yours now. If this story stayed with you, like and subscribe for more.